I thought this week I'd share with you 10 traits that separate the rich from the poor. Trait number one, the rich pursue a dream. 61% of the rich in my study pursued some dream. 97% of the poor did not. They weren't pursuing any dreams at all. The rich read to learn every day. 88% of the rich in my study read every day to learn. 98% of the poor did not read to learn on a daily basis. The rich took risks. 63% of the rich in my study took a risk in search of wealth at some point in their life. 94% of the poor avoided risk. The rich get along with others. 95% of the rich believe that being likable, getting along with others was critical to success. 91% of the poor in my study didn't believe that. They didn't believe that being likable was important at all in terms of success. The rich avoid toxic, negative people. 86% of the rich in my study surrounded themselves with other success-minded people who are optimistic, positive. 96% of the poor surrounded themselves with negative people who were not success-minded, the birds of a feather kind of thing. The rich pursue goals. 80% of the rich in my study were pursuing some goal all the time. 88% of the poor had no goals at all. The rich work harder. The rich in my study worked on average 11 hours more a week than the poor. And this is backed up by the the Census Bureau's data. They have a lot of data on this. The rich are not afraid to fail. 27% of the rich in my study at one point in their life failed in business. 98% of the poor avoid failure at all costs. The rich are optimistic. 54% of the rich in my study were optimistic about life. 78% of the poor, conversely, were pessimistic. The rich think like owners. 91% of the rich were owners or decision makers at work. They take on responsibility. They run towards responsibility. That's how they grow. 98% of the poor avoided responsibility. They were not decision makers at work.